up, Call of Duty fans? Welcome back. We've got week 12, the setup coming up for you guys. We'll dig through this pretty quickly because there's really not much to talk about besides the head-to-heads and the betting line. So really quickly, let's go ahead and do a setup with what we're looking at for both of our divisions. The teams we'll be keeping an eye out for here are OpTic, Gen G, Reciprocity, and Midnight in Division A. Mostly implications for what might happen up at the very top of Division A. And obviously, there's opportunity for Reciprocity and Midnight to potentially flip-flop for who's in that number 4 spot. In Division B, the teams in action will be E United, Heretics, Elevate, and Team Envy, with really only considerations here as far as what might happen with the Heretics. Will they go below Splice or won't they? I guess technically if Heretics lose out and Envy or Elevate win out, there's opportunity for there to be a swap in the top 4, but that's a little bit of a stretch. So let's go ahead and start and look at what our day will consist of here. In day numero uno, we'll be dealing with Elevate going up against Midnight. And both of these teams have been pretty tragic. Elevate pre their Rostermania actually did not look super terrible when it came down to what they were able to do at Anaheim with a 3-2 win versus E United. If you remember back, that was their only actual match win, but they also took Splice to Game 5 before they would eventually fall. They were also able to take a couple of search and destroys off of notable teams. But the problem with this squad, oh, pardon me, they also beat UYU in Game 5 there as well. The problem with this team is they're kind of bare bones at the moment. And I'm really a little bit nervous as far as what this team is going to offer. So you've got Whalers, you've got Profizi and M. Ruiz that are still staying. And honestly, that is just kind of whatever. But then you bring in Believe, who was previously on Accelerate and hasn't really touched the CWL since that PLQ time. And I believe maybe the first weeks of the regular season. I can't remember. But it was right around the first Rostermania period that he was dropped away. And Lacefield from Midnight, who's been okay. This team is just... I won't even say just okay. They're pretty bad. This is a pretty bad team. The Midnight team, on the other hand, got Zap and Royalty from UYU, as well as Frosty from Enigma 6. Now, honestly, Parasite and Llama are still there. Both decent players. The biggest thing is coming down to team chemistry and coordination. That's been an issue with just about every Parasite team from now until forever ago. But the biggest thing beyond that is, will they actually have trimmed away enough of the fat to be a decent, good contending team again? In this matchup, I personally would think that you would favor them, but there's not a lot of basis to go off of because this team was 2-5 in the hard point previously. Again, Midnight, just that was the team before. Again, a lot of people no longer there, but that's still something to keep in mind, is that 2 parts of this squad not good at hard point. So honestly, this one I think just comes down to who's going to be better at search and destroy and who's going to be able to outslay. I'm not really looking for set strategies really much so besides basic rotations and basic, we're going for spawns, we're going to give up this time, we're going to contest. That's all what hardpoint's going to be at this point in time. I can't imagine there being a lot of setups. Reciprocity versus E United, however, though, this will be a much cleaner match and probably will be the cleanest match of the day, to be completely honest, because both teams, well, one of them not making any changes whatsoever. Reciprocity will be bringing Alex into the mix instead of Shawnee. So that'll be interesting, I think, to see as far as how Alex fits in with this team. But again, this squad was just okay across the board. 4-3 in hardpoint at Anaheim, 4-2 in search, and 3-2 in control. Meanwhile, E United got a lot more reps. They were 9-3 on the hardpoint. They looked very good there, but they were a little bit lackluster in both of the search and destroy and the control. 4-5 in the search and 3-4 in the control. And these total averages, I think, are pretty accurate to go off of because, again, it's only been one player swaps here or there for these teams. So you can learn a lot, I think, based on what their general averages are. Generally speaking, E United has been the better hardpoint team, as well as, well, they've been the better team overall. That's the only way of really putting it. The plus 20, almost 7, and the average is really, really strong compared to the negative 9 that Reciprocity have in their differential for hardpoint. I think says a lot. Honestly, it'd be silly to not think E United is the favorite here, but this should be a much cleaner game, and I'm excited to see what Reciprocity is going to be able to offer with taking out Shawnee and bringing in Alex. OpTic, interestingly enough, this was a team that was starting to get a lot of notoriety for their search and destroy. Obviously, during their divisional, they only lost one search match. That was versus Gen G, but then they followed up at CWL Anaheim by going 4-6 in the search and destroy. Still very solid in the hardpoint and the control, 9-4 and 5-2, but the search and destroy is what kept OpTic from being a major contender for the finals in the Grand Championship, honestly, because they lost both of their search and destroys to the side of Gen G. So For OpTic, I'm interested to see what kind of search and destroy they're going to be able to bring. They're going up against a weakened Heretic squad. I would love to have seen these teams play at full force. They've played twice before, and OpTic swept them both times. Honestly, I think you should expect about the same. It just comes down to if Heretics are going to find any success with Vortex in the mix now that Sukri is gone and Methods has moved to ICR. It's just not, it's a mismatch on paper, flat out. And then you've got Envy going up against Gen V to finish things off. I'm excited to see how Envy's going to kind of respond to the Rostermania and how they'll do. They could do well, but it really, for me, comes down to the total team chemistry, because Aches has not been really performing to the standard that we expect him to throughout the year. Decimate had a pretty weak, obviously everyone had a very weak Anaheim, but even during the divisional before that, Decimate did not play super well. So for Envy, they've been in a long rut where they haven't won a search and destroy in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 matches they have not won, or 14 maps of search they have not won. Gen G, however, was 7-3 at Anaheim when it came to the search and destroy, and really started to prove themselves as being a major contender for search. However, they looked pretty bad in the hard point. They were 4-9 there. They lost their last 3 matches they played. They went 0-5 in the hard point, which is not good. Against, granted, those 2 of those were versus 100 Thieves. The other 2 were versus OpTic. So take from that what you will, and we'll go over and take a look at our bookies' worst nightmare and break down all the betting lines going into today, and a little bit of advice for you guys as well. We'll start things off with Elevate and Midnight. Personally, again, Elevate coming out as the underdog, but just slightly plus 120. They'll also be giving minus 200 if you bet them to cover at least 2 maps. Personally, I don't necessarily see that happening here. I think this Midnight team is just better on paper, and they are the favorites as well at minus 158. They do get a plus 160 for the spread, so if they win 3-1 or 3-0, you'll get plus 160, or $10 would turn into $16 returned, so you'd be $26 in total, because a $10 bet plus the $16 that you get off the profit. Personally, I would consider that spread bet, because I've got this one going 3-1 favoring Midnight, and I don't think this Elevate team's going to be any good. They might be worse than UYU. I can't necessarily say that because there's a little bit more power, I think, in Elevate's roster, but I think they're going to go 0-4 this week, personally, because their matchups do not look very good. This is actually their only real favorable matchup, I believe. Yeah, they got Gen G, Reciprocity, and OpTic. So yeah, they're going to go 0-4 this week. Honestly, you might consider the spread bet. It's hard to tell because we haven't seen this Midnight team or this Elevate team play. But personally, I'm going to be looking for that spread bet, and I'll also likely put that in a parlay. I haven't listed that because, again, my confidence on it is not super high because I don't know the teams. I do know the teams, however, for Reciprocity and United. And this one, again, Reciprocity, the underdog, pretty steep at plus 188, minus 120 for them to cover 2 maps. Again, I don't see them covering 2 maps against United, who are the favorites at minus 238. The spread bet here that I'm finding, the best one I can find, is at minus 110. So if you put in $10, you'll get back 9. That's not bad. Honestly, you might consider that one because I've got United taking this one at a 3-1 scoreline. Definitely consider adding this team as a parlay bet. But again, if you're looking to bet spreads, I think this spread is also pretty favorable because I can't see Reciprocity taking 2 maps from United, not based on how they were playing in the hard point and how I imagine they've cleaned things up in the search and destroy. Going over to the back half of the day, OpTic up against the Heretics. Another big underdog here, Heretics plus 500. It's a little bit, I think, overweighted, but still, I think that outcome is going to be pretty considerable. I've got this one going 3-1. Honestly, again, notch it as a parlay for OpTic. If you want to bet the spread at minus 225, you can, because honestly, I can't see Heretics taking 2 maps, but there is potential surprise, I think, for Heretics, because we don't know what to expect from Vortex. And honestly, again, the core 3 of that team is still really solid. It just comes down to, will Methods be able to match up against the ICR of someone like Crimsix? And the answer is probably no for most about everybody out there, but there could be surprise potential. We don't know what Vortex is going to be able to bring. Honestly, his experience does not really give me much confidence to say that they'll get even a map, let alone 2. So if you want to bet the spread, I think it should be pretty safe. But parlay should definitely be safe here with OpTic. And then to finish off the day, Envy versus Gen G. And honestly, I see this one going pretty close, mostly because I think this Envy team, with the addition of Gunless in the mix and Assault as well, I think that they'll be immediately better on the respawn. But you got to keep in mind that Spacely's in the mix here for Gen G. Nagafen will no longer be playing. So for Gen G, who looked atrocious in the hard point, hopefully the entry potential of someone like Spacely and an SMG will be able to counter that of someone like decimate on the side of Envy. The biggest problem with this Envy team is that they're atrocious at search and destroy. Personally, I think that I can see this one possibly going 5, but I have Genji winning that one at a 3-2. Big lines here. Again, Envy the steep underdogs, which honestly, there could be surprise potential here. Might be worth a couple of bucks at plus 326. The plus 120 spread is also a little tempting, but again, we don't know what we're dealing with. So I'm not going to recommend any spread bets for today. Here's my scorecard for you as far as what I'll be betting. I'm just going to bet this one safe probably as far as what I recommend. United and OpTic are the safest bets here as far as the parlay, so go ahead and double those up as match winners, and you should be able to find not much. It's not going to return too much because they're both heavy favorites, but that's your best bet at getting some returns on this one. So that's what I got for you guys, a little bit of an abbreviated one. I will be doing recaps throughout the entire week and every single day, so make sure if you are not already subscribed, you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to know when my videos do pop up in real time when they go live. Beyond that, we're close to 10,000 subs, so if that's not enough inspiration for you to click that notification button, I don't know what might be. But that's been Shift. Thanks for hanging out with me with the setup. We'll catch you guys for the day 1 recap on Monday. Tuesday morning, rather, I guess was when we'll be posting that one. And until then, though, hope you keep holding it down. Later. Bye-bye.